It starts with a bang, then another and another. Fireworks light up the night sky, but this isn't celebration. It's chaos. On a crowded British street, families flinch as rockets explode at head height, the air thick with smoke and fear. In the confusion, a scream cuts through the noise. A woman, blood on her hands, her face twisted in shock. She's just been slashed by a 23-blade weapon, wielded by a masked youth who vanishes into the shadows as quickly as he appeared. This is not a scene from a dystopian film. This is Britain tonight. Breaking news, but you won't see it on the BBC. While politicians debate community cohesion in Parliament, ordinary people are left to fend for themselves as firework thugs rage unchecked. No one is talking about the real cost. The fear in a mother's eyes, the trembling hands of a pensioner locking his door, the children who no longer feel safe walking home. The line between war zone and wonderland has blurred, and the silence from those in power is deafening. This is the new normal, unless we decide to face the it didn't happen overnight. The slow, creeping sense of danger on Britain's streets has been building for years, but only now is it erupting in ways no one can ignore. Once, fireworks were the stuff of childhood wonder, sparklers in the garden, bonfires with neighbors, laughter echoing into the night. But something has changed. The crackle and pop that once meant celebration now signal something darker. In 2023, the UK saw a staggering 40% spike in firework-related assaults. That's not a statistic. It's a warning siren blaring for anyone willing to listen. Ask any parent in the country and you'll hear the same fear. It could have been my daughter. The stories are everywhere, whispered in schoolyards and shared in hushed tones at the local pub. A teenager blinded by a rocket on her way home from dance class. A pensioner burned when a firework was shoved through his letterbox. And now the horror has escalated. Fireworks are just the beginning. The new trend is blade horror, where gangs armed with knives, machetes, and even homemade weapons prowl the streets, emboldened by the chaos. The police, stretched thin and demoralized, can barely keep up. For every arrest, 3 more incidents go unreported, lost in the noise of a country that's lost its grip. How did we get here? It's a question that haunts every parent, every shopkeeper, every ordinary Brit who just wants to feel safe in their own community. The answer isn't simple, but it's clear. A toxic mix of neglect, failed policies, and a culture that rewards spectacle over safety. The government talks about community cohesion, but on the ground, it's every family for themselves. The line between celebration and terror has vanished, and the people left to pick up the pieces are the ones who can least afford it. This isn't just about fireworks. It's about a society that's lost its way, where the innocent pay the price for the reckless and the violent. The question now is not just how we got here, but how much worse it will get before someone finally says, enough. Follow the money and you'll find the truth. While ordinary people cower behind locked doors, there are those who see opportunity in the chaos. The black market for fireworks is booming, with illegal imports flooding in from Eastern Europe and beyond. These aren't the harmless sparklers of childhood. They're industrial-grade explosives, sold out of car boots and back alleys to anyone with cash and a grudge. The profits are staggering, and the risks are minimal. For every police raid, a dozen more sellers pop up, emboldened by the knowledge that the system is too broken to stop them. But it's not just the street-level dealers who are cashing in. Social media has become a breeding ground for challenge culture, where teenagers film themselves launching fireworks at buses, cars, and even police officers, chasing likes and viral fame. The platforms rake in advertising revenue while turning a blind eye to the carnage. Meanwhile, local councils, those same bodies that lecture us about community, slashed funding for youth services, closed down after-school clubs, and left entire estates with nothing but boredom and resentment. The result? A generation with nothing to lose and everything to prove. And while you pay your council tax, hoping for a bit of peace and order, they profit from mayhem. Insurance companies hike premiums, security firms sell new locks and alarms, and politicians use the chaos as a talking point, never a solution. The people who suffer are the ones who play by the rules, who work hard, who just want to raise their families in peace. The ones who profit are the ones who thrive on disorder, who see every smashed window and burned-out car as another pound in their pocket. It's a sick joke, but no one's laughing. The system is rigged and the message is clear. If you want to get ahead, don't bother following the rules. Just light a match and watch the world burn. The rest of us are left to sweep up the ashes dot in Westminster. The lights are always on, but no one seems to be home. Politicians gather in grand halls, debating, community cohesion, and youth engagement, as if these are abstract concepts, not matters of life and death for millions of ordinary Britons. They see statistics, charts and graphs, numbers on a page. We see scars on our streets, on our children, on the very fabric of our communities. The disconnect is staggering. While MPs argue over the wording of press releases, families are barricading their doors. While committees draft reports on antisocial behavior, gangs are arming themselves with blades and fireworks, turning neighborhoods into war zones. The people in power are insulated from the consequences of their own failure. They don't walk these streets at night. They don't hear the sirens or the screams or the quiet sobs of a mother who's just been told her child won't be coming home. It's easy to talk about root causes and systemic issues from the safety of a taxpayer-funded office. It's harder to face the reality that decades of neglect, open borders, and soft-touch justice have created a perfect storm. The politicians see statistics, we see scars, and every day that passes without action is another day the gap between them and us grows wider. The truth is, they don't want to know. Admitting the scale of the problem would mean admitting their own complicity. So they look away and hope the rest of us will do the same. But we can't afford to look away, not when the cost is measured in blood and fear. But there comes a point when people have had enough. When the fear turns to anger, and the anger turns to action. It started quietly, neighbors texting each other, sharing warnings about trouble spots, keeping an eye out for unfamiliar faces. Then, as the violence escalated, so did the response. Local residents began to form patrols, walking the streets in high-visibility jackets, torches in hand, determined to reclaim their communities from the thugs who had taken over. Shopkeepers, tired of being easy targets, started barricading their doors at night, installing metal shutters and security cameras. Parents kept their children home after dark, refusing to let them become the next statistic. The message was clear. We're not waiting for the police. We're not waiting for the council. We're taking matters into our own hands. It wasn't about vigilantism. It was about survival. About sending a message to those who profit from chaos that the days of easy pickings were over. The sight of ordinary men and women standing shoulder to shoulder, refusing to be intimidated, sent shockwaves through the criminal underworld. For the first time in years, the balance of power began to shift. But it wasn't easy. There were confrontations, threats, even violence. The police, caught between a rock and a hard place, struggled to maintain order without alienating the very people they were supposed to protect. The media, always eager for a sensational headline, painted the community patrols as vigilantes, ignoring the reality that these were mothers, fathers, and grandparents fighting for their right to live in peace. Still, the movement grew. No more became the rallying cry, no more fear, no more silence, no more waiting for someone else to fix the problem. The night the streets fought back was the night Britain remembered what it means to stand together. If you turned on the television or scrolled through your news feed, you'd think nothing was wrong. The major outlets, those self-appointed guardians of the national conversation, downplayed the violence, calling it isolated incidents or youthful exuberance. They showed carefully edited clips of fireworks lighting up the sky, children laughing, families gathered in parks. The real footage, the chaos, the injuries, the terror, was quietly suppressed, buried beneath a mountain of feel-good stories and government soundbites. Victims who spoke out were painted as overreacting, accused of stoking division or worse, of harboring far-right sympathies. The message was clear: keep quiet, keep calm, and carry on. Don't ask questions. Don't demand answers. Don't upset the narrative. But the truth has a way of breaking through, no matter how hard they try to hide it. Leaked footage began to circulate online, videos of gangs launching fireworks at police cars, of terrified families cowering behind sofas as rockets exploded outside their windows. Social media became the only place where the reality of Britain's streets could be seen, raw and unfiltered. And as more and more people saw the truth for themselves, the anger grew. The media's silence was not just a failure of journalism, it was a betrayal. A betrayal of the victims, of the communities under siege, of the very idea of a free and open society. While the talking heads debated semantics, real people were living in fear. And the longer the silence lasted, the more dangerous it became. Every day, the pressure mounts. Emergency services are stretched to breaking point, with police, ambulance, and fire crews racing from one crisis to the next. Response times have doubled in some areas, and in others, calls for help go unanswered for hours. The people on the front lines, Paramedics, firefighters, beat cops are exhausted, demoralized, and afraid. They know that if this continues, it's only a matter of time before tragedy strikes on an even greater scale. The data is stark. In the last year alone, reports of firework-related violence have surged by 40%. Knife crime is at its highest level in a decade. Hospitals are treating more victims of assault than ever before, and the cost to the NHS is spiraling out of control. But these are not just numbers. They are lives, families, futures stolen by a system that no longer works. If this continues, response times will double. Your street could be next. It's not a threat, it's a promise. The safety clock is ticking, and every second that passes brings us closer to the point of no return. The question is not if, but when. When will the next attack happen? When will the next family be torn apart? When will the people in power finally wake up and do something? The answer, it seems, is never. So the responsibility falls to us, to the ordinary men and women who refuse to accept this as the new normal. The time for waiting is over. The time for action is now. For every statistic, there is a story. For every headline, a human face. Take the case of Emily, a 17-year-old girl from Manchester. She was walking home from her part-time job at the local supermarket when she was caught in the crossfire of a firework attack. A rocket exploded at her feet, sending shards of plastic and metal into her legs. She spent weeks in hospital undergoing surgery after surgery, her dreams of university put on hold. Her mother, Sarah, still can't talk about that night without tears. She just wanted to walk home. Now she's afraid to leave the house. The family's life has been turned upside down. Sarah quit her job to care for Emily. Her younger brother has nightmares, and their once friendly neighborhood is now a place of fear and suspicion. Emily's story is not unique. Across the country, families are living with the consequences of a society that has lost its way. Children who used to play in the street now stay indoors, their laughter replaced by the constant hum of anxiety. Parents who once felt safe now jump at every loud noise, every unfamiliar face. The sense of community that once defined Britain's towns and villages is slipping away, replaced by mistrust and isolation. But even in the darkest moments, there is hope. Families like Emily's refuse to be broken. They speak out, they demand justice, they fight for a better future, not just for themselves, but for everyone. Their courage is a reminder that the spirit of this country is not so easily extinguished. The fear and anger that once simmered beneath the surface is now boiling over. Across the country, hidden alliances are forming. Neighborhood watch groups, ex-military volunteers, parents' associations. People who have never met before are coming together, united by a simple message. We're taking our streets back. In towns and cities from Newcastle to Bristol, ordinary citizens are organizing patrols, sharing information, and supporting each other in ways the authorities never could. Ex-soldiers teach self-defense classes, parents set up safe zones for children, and local businesses donate supplies to keep the movement going. The sense of solidarity is palpable, a reminder that, even in the face of chaos, the British people will not be cowed. The pushback is not without its challenges. There are threats, confrontations, and the ever-present risk of escalation. But for many, the alternative, doing nothing, living in fear, is no longer acceptable. The message is spreading. We are not victims, we are not alone. We are the ones who will decide what kind of country we live in. This is not just a fight for safety, it's a fight for the soul of the nation. And it's a fight that more and more people are joining every day. Tonight it was fireworks and blades. Tomorrow, what will it be? Acid attacks, armed robberies, the slow, grinding erosion of everything that once made this country great. If we don't rise now, we surrender our streets and our future. This is not a call for violence. It's a call for courage, for unity, for the kind of action that only ordinary people can take when those in power refuse to lead. Share this story. Demand answers from your councillors, your MPs, your neighbors. Stand up for your community, for your family, for the values that built this nation. Because if we don't act, no one will. And if we let fear win, we lose everything. The time has come to choose. Silence or resistance, fear or hope, surrender or fight. The future of Britain is in our hands. Let's make sure it's a future worth fighting for.